and welcome to iCritic Live. This is the podcast where we talk about entertainment, pop culture, and life in between. I am your host, Kevin T. Rodriguez, film critic of iCritic.net. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes of your time with me tonight. Maybe even more than a few minutes, because we've got an exciting episode tonight. Now, we have talked about Coyote versus Acme and all the craziness that's going on. Now, we don't have time to really go step by step what the whole story is. However, the main story that you should know is that Coyote versus Acme is a movie that gets greenlit for HBO Max at the time. And the movie is shot, it's completed, and then there is a shift in strategy. Like, it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money on streaming exclusive movies, so they're going to send this movie to theaters. But then someone, we're not entirely sure who, decides that this movie is not good enough for theaters, and they decide to shelve the film. Now, unlike Batgirl, which was also shelved by Warner Brothers, Batgirl is not finished yet. It needs another $20 million or so to finish the movie, and the test screening suggests that it's not very good. So they scanned that one, or they scrapped that one, I should say. Coyote versus Ugly, on the other hand, is considered very good by the test audiences, and it's completely finished. We have a fully finished movie, which, by the way, considering the lack of movies that they have because of the strikes, that's valuable. But they decide to scrap it, and then controversies come up where it's like they decide to shop to other studios. That doesn't work out for reasons we have discussed in other episodes, and now it's potentially on the chopping block again. And many of the actors and people who have worked on this movie have defended it. They've said it's good, and they have been speaking out with sites like MovieWeb, where this actor, Stephen Ray Baird, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, he spoke to them and talked about how wonderful the movie was, what it meant to him, and that you can't cancel art. And you know what? I decided I wanted to reach out to people who worked on this movie and talk to them about what this movie meant to them, what it means for their career, all these little things. And I figured I would start with Stephen Bird. Welcome.
How you doing? How you doing?
I am doing fine. So you heard me say this before the show started, but thank you for joining us. So you are an actor. You've been in a few movies like Crazy Heart and things like that. And so why don't you tell me a little bit about your career on being an actor before we get into Coyote versus Acme?
Sure. So it all started here in New Mexico. New Mexico is kind of like the mini Hollywood. I don't know if you've heard that. They film a lot of stuff here in New Mexico now. And I remember I was watching TV and they were casting, actually at that time, it was a TV show called Easy Money. They were just looking for background. And I said, wait, they make movies here? And I sent a photo in and they called me in and I couldn't get enough. You know, I got on the set and it's like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I want to be an actor. And I took classes. I ended up getting an agent. And I've been doing it for, my gosh, over 10 years now?
Yeah,
over 10 years.
Yeah, it's been over 10 years. Crazy Heart was 2010. That's when it was released.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yep. That's when I was doing background.
Yeah. And since then you've moved up to smaller parts. Any speaking roles?
Yeah, so I've had a few speaking roles. And this one, Coyote versus Acme, is actually a featured background part, but I'll get more into that here in a little bit.
Right.
I was on True TV. I was on True TV, which is pretty funny. I got into a fight on True TV, national television. That was my first ever speaking role. I was in a movie that came out called Shrapnel. I got shot and I died.
Oh. And through the magic of Hollywood, you are here with us today.
Yep. But yeah, pretty much small roles, but still, auditioning all the time for different things. So.
Yeah, but we all have to start somewhere. I mean, it's always so funny when you look at some of these some big actors, like you see what they started out with, and it's like it's almost like they not know who they had at the time. It's like, well, no, they hadn't done anything yet.
Yep.
But then one day you actually get cast in a Looney Tunes movie called Coyote versus Acme, and it's like as you said, it's kind of a front background part. Like, it's not like a major character, but you are definitely seen in it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Like it's not like you're like, oh, I have a friend who's in Armageddon, by the way, and when he was pointed out, he was like the hot dog vendor on the bridge where Eddie Griffith's character was
Oh,
going.
okay.
Like you're actually in some of like the screenshots that have been released next to John Cena. So
Oh yeah.
tell without spoiling the story of the movie, because we're kind of ironically not that interested in discussing the story right now. What was it
Right.
like to audition and get cast for that movie, and why are you so passionate about this one?
So it's funny because when I found out that John Cena was doing a movie here in New Mexico, I said, "Wait, oh my gosh, I have to get on that movie." And there's a personal reason. I lost my son 4 months prior, and he was a John Cena fan, and my mom was also a big John Cena fan. So I was in a bad place, and they were looking for featured background lawyers to be part of John Cena's Acme legal team. And so I asked my agent, and I said, "It's okay if I do this? I know it's the background, but it's featured, and it means a lot to me. Like, I would love to be on that set. I need this right now." And she's like, "Absolutely, do it, you know." And so I sent my info in. They called me, and they're like, "Yeah, we need you." I did it for, I think, 3 weeks. I was on that set a lot. I was on that set a lot, and it was amazing. I really needed it at the time. So
Well, I'm sorry to hear about your son and your mother, but that definitely put some context. Like, your son's a big John Cena fan, and he would have loved to have seen Daddy in not only in a movie with John Cena, but this is. I'm going to assume this was not a PG-13 rated film. I'm going to assume Coyote versus Acme was going to be a family-friendly film. So
yep.
here around, you could have taken him to this movie and said, "There's Daddy. He's sitting with John Cena." I could see why that would mean a lot to you.
Yeah, and like I said, my mom too, like, just she was in love with John Cena. And if she would have seen this too. So, those were my intentions to get on it, and kind of I was doing it for them,
Mm-hmm.
and I never expected to get as much action as I did, for being background, because usually, background, they're in the back. You don't see much.
Mm-hmm.
But this one, I actually interacted with the Looney Tunes, like, in a couple things. I actually did do some interaction, so it was really cool. First time ever doing that.
So even better, you get to actually interact with the Looney Tunes. So for a background role, this is a very substantial role. So, and I have to ask, hopefully John Cena was nice.
Oh, John Cena was awesome.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that we're John Cena fans over here. So that's great to hear. So you make now here's the thing, like, I want to give people a little bit behind the scenes curtains. Okay, you film these scenes, and then what happens with the movie? Do you just kind of move on? It's like, well, I guess I'm just going to wait for the movie to come out, or are you given updates before the movie comes out on what's going on?
Yeah, this one was weird because, after it was done, we were looking out. So there was a release date of July 21st, 2023.
Yep.
And then
if that date sounds familiar, folks, Barbie was released on that day.
Yep. And then they replaced it with Barbie, for that day. And then there was no new release date. Usually if they move it, you'll find something out later and they'll give you a new date. But there was never another date released. They just put Barbie in there, which, Barbie rocked it, but they never gave it another date, and it was ready to be released. So it was really confusing. So I would look at Twitter, I would look at different things, and never heard anything else except for, there were like some little leaks and rumored dates, and there was a test screening. And I thought once I saw the test screening, I was like, I didn't see the test screening, but once they put out, there were test screenings, I figured, okay, they're about to release this movie, or they're about to give a date or something. And nope, nothing. The next thing I heard was it got canceled. And I was like, what in the world? What?
So walk us through that day. This was obviously for personal reasons. You got into this movie. Some dreams were achieved. I'm assuming that because of your prominence, this could have also been like a little good career boost, like someone, a character that actually interacts with Looney Tunes, you're going to be seen, and then it's canceled. So
Yep.
what did that day feel like? Were you going through like the 7 stages of grief or something? Like, how does that look like?
Yeah, so I was actually on vacation. I was on vacation with my girlfriend, and I see all the stuff saying Coyote versus Acme canceled, and I'm like, it hit me hard. Like I got emotional. I mean, I cried. I actually cried about it. I was like, this can't be happening. Like, wait, how do you like? Why would they do this? What's the problem here? Test screenings were great. Heard great things about it. The movie's complete. What's going on? Why would they do this? And I was like, okay, I got to do something. And I'm just the background actor, but I was like, I have to say something. And I started a petition that same day. And I just started telling her. So I have 400,000 followers on TikTok also. And I pushed it out there, and I just started like talking about it. And the petition gained a lot of steam, and it was pretty awesome, but it hurt. And then I saw that they reversed it. That was only days later they decided to reverse it. The decision,
I think we were all happy to hear that they had reversed that decision. And it was like, hey, this is actually going to happen. I was just starting, and I was thinking, like, some cooler heads probably prevailed. They realized that the bad press was just way too much. They can't do this. Probably was brought to attention. Oh, by the way, James Gunn, that guy that we really want to be in business with, who's reshaping our DC lineup, he helped write this thing. Do we really want to tick that guy off? Yeah. And so I just thought that it was going. So that for you, it must have been like almost like, oh, yay, it's gonna happen, and then had to break the news. And here's the thing: I'm not mad at Puck. Obviously, I'm glad that they're reporting these things, but Puck had to say, "Hey guys, it's not looking good." Like, like they put this hard $80 million price tag on it. No one quite wants to pay that kind of money, and they're just going to shelve it again. I mean, how did that feel to read that article like that? Yeah. Like, because my thought was like, they're not seriously talking about canceling this film again. Like, would they even survive that kind of embarrassment?
Yep. So when it got reversed, I finally had a little joy, and I was like, okay, there's no way somebody's not going to buy this. Like, it already has hype. From Twitter alone, it had a whole bunch of hype. And I'm sorry, X,
Yeah.
It had a whole bunch of hype already, and I thought to myself, no way they would shelve the same film twice. Like, there's no way this is going to happen. And then I woke up one morning and I got a message from a friend on X, and they're like, I'm so heartbroken, I'm so sad. I'm like, what? Why? Oh my gosh, no. And I started looking, and I saw the article, saying it's not going to be picked up, and I said, this can't be happening. Like, same thing. It just had me on that emotional roller coaster,
Yeah. And, it seems like an executive should have been able to figure something out. Like, I heard that, like, for example, Paramount wanted to pay $40 million for it and even give a theatrical release. And it was like, well, I know that, first of all, that is more than the tax write-off that they were going to get.
Yep.
But then they were like, oh, that's too low for us. And it's like, so why don't you make a compromise? Why don't you say, okay, how about we do this? We made the movie. You're going to distribute the movie. Buy it for $40 million. And once the costs are recovered, we'll split the profits 50-50.
Right.
Like, do something like that. But then I'm reading that the executives aren't even showing up to the meetings.
Didn't see it.
yeah, they didn't see it. And it's like, as a shareholder, and I've got well over a couple hundred shares. Maybe I'm not the biggest shareholder in the world, but I like this company. I invested in it, literally. And I'm reading stories like that, and it's like, what are you idiots doing? Especially since you now have a movie that I think there's well and more than enough interest in this one.
Yes.
and then something interesting starts happening, because when Batgirl got canceled, I mean, people said they were disappointed, But we moved on pretty quickly because it's not like people went on campaigns like, you got to save this movie, we're about to lose something. There seemed to be kind of like an understanding, however muted, that, yeah, we don't like our work going to waste, but we're not sticking our neck out for this thing. It's just, it's not worth it. And in all fairness, Batgirl wasn't finished. It needed an extra $20 million. But this was finished, and you start getting very vocal about it being great. And then Eric Baza, who voices several of the Looney Tunes characters, he starts talking about how it's really great. And then you have Christopher Lord and Christopher Miller. That's who it is. They're coming out and saying, hey, we've seen it. It's great. Yep. And I know some people are a little sketchy about Phil and Chris because of their apparent abuse of animators. But it's like, hey, guys, forest through the trees here. These guys made the Lego movie and the new Spider-Man movies that you loved and 21 Jump Street, and they're saying it's great.
Right.
That's the message there. And even Hamid Amin, who is the editor of Cartoon Brew, and Amin, if you're watching this, I love you, but you are a real stickler about cartoons sometimes. He's writing this article and saying how great it is, and he's on X, despite all the news coming out saying, I cannot fathom anyone at the studio letting this great film fall by the wayside, because he was just so awestruck by it. So I know that you've only been in background parts, but have you ever in the industry for the time you've been there seen like a bunch of people almost kind of risk their jobs for shelving a movie?
No, not at all. And I mean, yeah, even Will Forte, another awesome guy on set. My gosh, I actually saw him on MacGruber too. That was when I first started too, but he even was vocal about it, in his own way. He said, I don't have to agree with it, but yeah, that so many people speaking up about this. Like when Eric spoke at the award show?
Yeah, the Annie Awards.
Said what he said. That's a lot of passion. And that's another thing that hurt me. It wasn't just about me. It's like, I was looking at his post. I was looking at the Karsten, he's the editor, Stephen Price, the composer, all these people voicing their, displeasure with this whole thing happening. And then being in New Mexico, a lot of the New Mexico film family, I know a lot of them, heartbroken. I can't believe this. What? Our work is just trash? Like, what's going on?
Yeah. The way that I have to explain it to people, because some people will, and I'm sure you've heard this before, like, well, you got paid. What do you care if it never gets released? And it's like, look, it's kind of like, what if, like, especially like, say this is like you were like a chef or something, and you work at this restaurant. You want to eventually be in a 5-star restaurant establishment. You go to this restaurant, you develop a dish, it's very good, and then one day the restaurant closes down and they say, oh, by the way, you can't tell anyone you worked here. It's like starting over. It's like that work literally did not exist. And I mean, it's almost like its own quarantine. Like, I spent 2 years making this movie, and now it's gone. And it's like, what? Did I just lose 2 years of my life?
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's what's being overlooked, because I did see that. People were like, you got paid, didn't you? I'm like, wow, it goes way further than that. First of all, demo reels. Can't use any of this for our demo reels now. Can't use any of this for future projects. Like, people can, look at our demo reels and see this and be impressed, especially the animators, the editors, like all that stuff. And then residuals for the SAG actors. It's not going to be shown. They're not going to get anything for it.
Right.
It's way deeper than that. And then also just the fear of working for somebody again and wondering if it's going to be canceled. I can't imagine, if they were to tell you before they filmed this, hey guys, okay, I want you to work really, really hard. We want 100% from every one of you. But when the film's done and complete, we're going to just trash it, just so you know. Do you think anybody's going to want to work on that film? Absolutely not,
No, and they're certainly not going to give 100% of their best.
Right.
That's for sure. And unfortunately, I also saw some people say, "Oh, David Zaslav decided to release The Flash with Ezra Miller, but they won't release Coyote versus Acme." It's like, I think you're really missing the point of this.
Yeah.
It's not the quality of the film that matters.
Right.
It's the fact that it's finished. Again, I'll give a little leeway to Batgirl because it technically wasn't finished.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
the test scores were not good. And it's like, someone says, like, you know what, we spent $80 million on it. We need 20 million more. And it might not even stop at 20 million. It could have gone 30 extra million. I mean, there is something to be said for, okay, that we're not going to make this back. This was a mistake. Let's pull out before we sink ourselves even deeper. It's like that little side hustle that once you realize it's not bringing in the money that it should be, that helps you. It's like, look, you got to stop. You got to cut it off. You got to try something else, or else this will just make you sink further into the hole, and you're going to leave it anyway. But again, this movie's finished.
Right.
And by the way, the score even sounded great. The fact that they got like a whole choir to sit there and go beep 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 beep.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see what that looks like.
That was awesome. That was a really awesome clip.
Yep. But what if that score was great? He can't share that music anymore.
Right.
Like, and of course, Dave Green, the guy who directed it, that's his name, Dave Green, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I have trouble with names sometimes. That's why I always like to verify. Like, it's so hard to get to direct just one movie in your life. Right. Sometimes you're only going to get to direct one movie the way Hollywood is. He got to direct his movie.
And he was phenomenal. He was awesome. He was really awesome. And he's been vocal too. He's very displeased with it. And I think, like you said, people are missing the point. It's not, we make a movie, it's complete. Let the audience decide how the movie is, not, you know what I mean? Don't assume that it's going to, because it's always, when you make a movie, it's hit or miss. It's never going to be like, mostly nothing's a sure thing. Mostly some things, yeah, but mostly it's not. And then Looney Tune fans, that's another thing that got me with this. How many Looney Tune fans are out there? There's a lot of Looney Tune fans. I mean, Looney Tunes is Warner Brothers, like, I don't see why they would treat it like they don't love it anymore. That's what it feels like.
Well, and then the weird thing is, like, David Zaslav actually stated one of the company's ambitions is to reintroduce Looney Tunes to a new generation, and it's like,
what? Yep.
Like, doesn't make sense. By the way, if I wasn't the one sitting here and if it was David Zaslav that was sitting here, what would you say to him?
I kind of wrote a little letter and I posted it, but it really is about, like, just do the right thing, which is release the movie. Don't worry about selling it to anyone else. You can already see the passion that the fans have, the passion that the cast and crew has. You honestly, you can make things right. You can totally make things right. Make some money while you're at it. Release it, make some money. I'm telling you, it would be a success, but don't set that precedent of just tossing completed films and having people wonder if they should work for you ever again, because it's going to put a lot of doubt in people's minds. Absolutely. It already has.
And it's not even just this film that they've done it. I mean, Salem's Lot.
Yeah,
I mean, that's confirmed to be finished, and Stephen King is on X going like, what the heck, everyone? This thing was finished years ago. Where is it?
Yep. Yeah, same thing. So now people that were waiting to see that, they're like, oh man, they probably canceled it. They're probably going to throw that away too. Yeah, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. And I get that feeling like it wasn't sold, but it almost feels like, well, we don't want to sell it and then it's very successful on another platform. Like you said, you had a good idea. If that's the worry, then let's negotiate.
Right. And there was like a Fast Company article today. Like, here's another crazy thing. Like, I mean, I remember like the Batgirls news lasting for maybe 2 weeks, and this is what 2-3 months later, and there's still articles coming out every week about it.
Yep.
I mean, as they say, this is the kind of publicity you can't buy. But in this article, at the end, and I'm paraphrasing, but they did admit that one of the reasons why you don't want to sell it probably is because if someone else makes it a hit, then it looks bad on you. And they said it's better for people to think you're a fool than to know you're a fool.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that makes sense. And that's the feeling I get, you know. But then if that's the case, like I said, why not just release it yourself? You know?
Yeah, because I think there's egos. And it's a shame that people's livelihoods and art and passion projects are getting squandered over egos. But, you know, they didn't greenlight this movie. They inherited the movie. And maybe if it's a hit that's like, I mean, ironically, they do get to take the credit for it, but maybe they don't want that to be a hit. Maybe it's like, we want our projects to be a hit. The next Looney Tunes movie, which some people have said, oh, I hope they don't cancel the next Looney Tunes movie. No, that one they actually did sell to someone else. So that one's
what is it? The Earth?
The space one with Porky Pig and Daffy and all things. Like what an interesting movie. I'm definitely gonna see it now though. But I mean, so they told that one's fine. But you know, it's just one of those things. It's like whenever like a new head of a network comes in, unless the show is like been there a long time and it's still wildly successful, everything gets canceled. Everything gets canceled as they put their own stamp on it. And this might have just been collateral damage. There might be some egos there going like, well, we didn't make this, so we don't care whether it could make money or not. It's not ours. So we're just going to do this to get rid of it. Now, with that being said, personally, are you still holding out hope that this hasn't officially been written off yet, that there's still a chance it'll get released? Because Cartoon Brew pointed out that, well, they didn't say anything about the movie, and no news is good news in this situation. But then the Hollywood Reporter said, look, they wrote off $115 million in the fourth quarter, most of it animation related. It's probably in there. What do you think?
So I'm still gonna keep holding on to hope until I get something definitive. You know, I'm not gonna just lay over. I'm still gonna keep posting about it. I'm gonna keep talking about it. You know, I did see, so when I saw the 115 million, I did say, I was like, well, that doesn't look good. You know, it's probably in there, but I don't know. And this is another thing. And one thing I haven't done in any of my posts, I've not badmouthed Dave. I haven't said anything about like, you know, fire. I haven't said any of that stuff. I haven't said anything rude, but I'm not a CEO of a company either. I'm an actor. I don't run businesses, so I don't know all the ins and outs. You know, I'm not going to pretend I do. I'm just kind of thinking logically, I guess, or you know, you know what I mean. I'm thinking that, but I'm still holding out hope because I mean, it could be, but I don't. And that's another thing. And I've asked people. I don't know how it works. Like, what if they did? Can they reverse that? I mean, if they did pay or they did get the tax cut. Can they pay them back? I don't know how any of that works, and I'm not going to pretend to know. So, but they haven't said it. They haven't said anything. So,
yeah, Cartoon Brew said no news is good news in this situation. So I was one of those people who thought like it's got to be. You might have even seen my posts on X where it's like, well, because you and I conversed a little bit on that site. And it's like, that's it. There it is. It's in there. And someone pointed out two things. One, if they do give the government money back, then yes, they can release something. They can release it at that point.
That's okay. That's what I heard. Yeah.
Which is why I hope that they don't delete it just to be spiteful, because that's an easy, quick release if you need one. But another thing they pointed out is like, well, but that's for the fourth quarter, and the movie got a stay of execution, so it probably wouldn't be in the fourth quarter where it would get written off. It would be written off in the first quarter.
That's actually
Now,
true. Yep.
I don't know if that's 100% true because maybe they never took it out of the fourth quarter, but it did kind of get a stay of execution. So that suggests that, well, they had to wrap that up before all this, before the discussions even took place. So it might still be on the table.
Right.
And I'm going to hope that that's the case because, you know, you got to have hope at some point. And I don't think they're going to be able to completely avoid this situation forever. Like,
No.
I don't think they can wait it out because I'm going to be perfectly honest. The way that things are going, it's like there is an actor or a musician or someone who worked on this film speaking out against the cancellation every 2 weeks, almost like clockwork.
Yep.
Like what happened? I think John Cena will at some point say something. Don't ignore John Cena. And what if it gets to the point where James Gunn says something? Now, he's the one that I think would probably not say something. He has the most to lose because he is an executive at the studio. But he suddenly voiced displeasure too. And, you know, if I were in his position, I'd probably be calling David Zaslav and saying, hey, if Superman makes $800 million, then as part of the bonus, you've got to release Coyote versus Acme in theaters. But I'm not in his position. I don't know how that stuff works.
Yep, me neither. Yeah,
entirely. But I'm aside from talking about the disappointment, I do want to end. Well, not end. We still got a few things to talk about, but I would like to offer that hope that one of my accountant friends said that fourth quarter report had to be done finished by mid-January. And they had unleashed it to be shopped around that time. So it can't really be in there. And so I'm going to hope that he's right.
And that's what we need right now. And that's why I'm not stopping, you know.
Yeah.
Because it's not official. We're hearing a lot of stuff. You know, we're reading a lot of different articles, but I think even some people have, you know, redacted some of the things they've said, like, it was Will Forte. He had said something will most likely not be seen. Yeah. And people were saying, there you go. It's not being seen. And they're like, no, we're just assuming. It's all assumption right now. It really is.
Yeah. Well, and they're saying like, oh, and he said it was deleted. It's like, no, like the Puck article suggested that it could be deleted. And I mean, at the very least, I'm hoping that this comes together and it like makes lawmakers like, forces them to change how this is done. I can think of two logical changes that need to happen with this thing. One, if the movie is completed, you have to shop it around first. And if someone gives you even $1 more than what the tax write-off is going to be, then it is officially worthless as a tax write-off. Somebody offered you more money than the government.
Because of that. Yeah.
You have, because it has more value, you've got to sell it. Now that's one thing they could add. The other thing, and I don't know, I think this would actually be way more effective, is say, okay, if you want to write off your movies, you can do that. But once you do that, anything that's filmed becomes public domain. Because the asset is not valuable to you, it's public domain. Anyone can do whatever they want for it. And because at that point, you and I have effectively paid for that movie with our tax dollars. So we should see what we paid for.
Yeah. And
I think studios would definitely hesitate to do that because it's like, well,
for sure.
You know, what if someone puts on YouTube, monetizes it, and gets 4 billion views?
Right. Yep.
Like, we look really foolish at that point.
Yes.
Doing that.
I've seen a lot of people saying that in comments too. You know, like, well, it should be ours. If you guys like that, if that's the case, it should be ours. Yep. A lot of people are saying that.
Yeah. Now, one thing that has come up, and I know this is kind of a sensitive topic for everyone involved, where someone's saying, leak the film now. Now, I am going to state, and this does not mean that I approve or disapprove of it. Warner Brothers, if you're watching this movie's going to get leaked. It's going to. If you don't release it, it's going to find a way at some point. But that being said, should we be encouraging leaks before anything has officially like we don't know yet. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, leaks. I agree with you. I do think, I mean, it feels like there's already evidence that it's going to be, with little things coming out here and there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
there's way there is actually, I'm kind of surprised that for something that's been shelved in the process of being deleted, that there is so much new stuff being released.
mhm.
It almost
Yeah,
feels like
right.
someone's toying with us.
Yeah. But as far as leaks go, and I did talk about this, I don't encourage leaks, especially since we don't know exactly what's happening. But look, like even the whole plot outline,
Yeah.
um,
Which I
in a
have not
way,
read for the record.
huh?
Which
I'm
I
sorry.
have not read for the record.
Oh yeah. I can, and I did this on another one. I read the parts that I participated in on that plot thing, and I will say that it was accurate. So I don't know where it came from, have no clue. But that's kind of
Mm.
like, hey, Warner Brothers, look, we have this. Like, come on,
Huh.
let's do this. We don't want to. They don't. I don't think anybody. I think it's just passionate people. You know,
Yeah.
they're like they don't want to do that. And like I said, be careful with that stuff. I will not be reposting that plot or anything like that. I stay away from that.
Yeah.
But
That's wise.
yeah, but the people that have read it, they're like, oh my gosh, how can this not be released? It's caused even more of a. I think the guy that posted the one of the leaks, it has like 4 million views, and you just read the comments. Everybody's like, this is an amazing story. I mean, Sammy Birch wrote
Mm-hmm.
the screenplay, I believe.
Yeah. No. I mean, I've heard nothing but great things about it. But my theory on that whole leak synopsis thing is that was a veiled threat to Warner Brothers. I
It
think
feels
I
like it.
think I think they have the movie,
Hmm.
and and if they're smart, they've made multiple copies to back it up, and that's I think that's their way of saying to Warner Brothers, we're gonna release this. You
Hmm.
don't do it, we will.
Yep.
And Disney tried to like they've tried to stifle Song of the South. They tried really hard to stifle the Sweatbox. Now, Song of the South was easier to get out because it did get a Laserdisc release in Japan, so it's not like it was completely out of there. But like the
Right.
Sweatbox, that documentary was like in a movie theater for 1 week, and they went out of their way to make sure no one ever saw it. Then one day it leaked, and once
Yeah.
it leaks, it's out there.
It's yeah,
It
all of
it
it.
it's out there. And the funny thing is sometimes it's even much ado about nothing. Like the Sweatbox, it was kind of like, oh, how bad did the executives look in that movie? And the answer is not really. They're doing their job in saying this doesn't seem to be working. It's not as gritty as the silencing would have led you to believe.
Hmm. Hmm.
But there you go. So yeah, folks, and the other thing I want to put into context with people, folks, is that when we ask people to leak something, if they get caught, there's some legal
Yeah.
problems that they have coming. They could probably lose their career. Maybe they'll never work in this industry again. So that's a big ask.
It's
A
huge. Yep.
big ask just to. I mean, as much as I want to see Coyote versus Acme, I don't know if it's worth pressuring someone and saying you have a moral obligation to destroy your life so
Yeah.
that we
No.
can see this movie. It's like, no, at the end of the day, it's a movie. At the end of the day, it's a movie. But I have no doubt it is a well backed up movie, and we will see it at some
Hmm.
point, whether David Zaslav wants to help us with that or not.
Right.
Now, when
Yeah.
as this movie got canceled, like, how does that personally affect you as an actor? Does that kind of make you not want to act as much anymore? Like, what's the fallout feel like?
Yeah. It took some passion away for a little bit, and then I kind of convinced myself like I'm not going to let what they're doing affect what I love. Like I'm not going to, no matter what, they're not going to cancel my passion. They can't do that. They can't
Mm,
do that. So I had a couple auditions, and I remember telling my girlfriend, I was like, man, I don't even know if I want to do this. Like, I don't even know if no joke. And I was still very emotional, and I still am. But I was like, I don't even know if I want to act anymore. I literally said that. Like, I was like, I mean, what's going to happen? Is it going to get canceled? Is it, what's going to happen? Like, it made me paranoid. It sounds crazy because movies don't always get canceled. This is not a common thing. When you go into a TV show, TV shows get canceled, but at least they were airing, or you
Right.
film a TV pilot or a movie pilot and you're pitching it to somebody. You have hopes that it gets picked up, but there's a chance it may never be seen. That's different than filming a completed movie, totally complete, that from a big company. It's just totally weird. So as far as acting goes, I got another audition. I'm going to do my best, and I'm going to keep on going despite all this drama that's happening, for sure. But it does make you think twice. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you're going to keep up the good fight. And then, of course, it's weird because I don't know if you remember the whole Aquaman pilot situation where they were going to spin off Aquaman from Smallville into his own thing, and they made a pilot and it passed, and there was just so much interest in the pilot, they eventually released the pilot without the show. And it's like, really, this is the same company we're talking about today?
Yeah, how's that work? Yeah.
Like, they could see back then the money in this, but not this. I don't know. But hey, on some positive news, after a decade in limbo, a Zac Efron and John Cena buddy comedy, Ricky Stanicky, hit streaming. So never give up hope, folks. You just never know what's going to happen. Hello, this is the first message on this video. Yes, it is, Calb. Thank you for joining us. So, all right, let's hear. So we've talked about the shelving. Is there anything else we want to talk about you, this movie? I don't know. So tough because it's like, even online, it feels like this has been played out and we're still frustrated because it's almost like it's very clear this movie is going to be a hit at this point.
Yeah. I
don't.
And I wake up every day and I feel like X is like my Coyote versus Acme newspaper.
Yeah.
And I check to see if it's trending. I look at it, make my post. My petition that I started, I think it's getting close to 20,000. There's a lot of comments though. Like, that's the thing that gets me is if you read everybody's comments, not everybody's like, these aren't all actors. These are mostly a lot of fans, a lot of passionate fans. And I feel like they've already got a lot of publicity. If they released it, there's already a ton of people that want to see it. They haven't even done one commercial trailer. I think a trailer got leaked at one point, but I never saw it. But no advertisements at all, and it's already got this much. So I can't imagine if they dropped a trailer on YouTube, how many views that trailer would get. Now, because they've got a ton of free publicity right now. It's not good publicity, but
Now, Aaliyah Anderson has pointed out that the controversy has gotten some politicians' attention, wanting to investigate Warner Brothers' practices as anti-art. Well, that's actually not true. What they're looking at is anti-consumerism and anti-competition, because and maybe you have thoughts about this, maybe you don't, but it is weird that it's like, oh yeah, like we're gonna can this movie. So not only does that like put some careers in jeopardy because their work doesn't get seen, but then it's like, well, we can shop it around, but we don't really have to. And Phil Lord had already commented, wouldn't it be hilarious if this ended up in like a courtroom scene? So I don't know. Do you personally see any legal action coming about because this thing got shelved?
Yeah, honestly, I do. I think it's just because now there's a little history with Warner Brothers doing this, because it wasn't just, Batgirl wasn't completed, but there was Scoob also.
Yeah.
Was that Holiday Hunt?
Yeah, and that was kind of a weird one. It wasn't finished when they canceled it, but they finished it anyway because everything was already paid for.
Yeah. That was a really weird.
So that's really like puts it in a weird position.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I have to be honest, I don't know how you make money off Scoob Holiday Hunt. It's like it's not a feature, but specials don't do well anymore, so
Right.
it's that one's tough.
Yeah.
But
This, yeah,
yeah, this was
this
different.
one, I mean, that's the difference. This one is 100% done, 100% complete, and it has, it has plenty of star power. It has me in it. I'm just kidding. It has John Cena in it. Lana Condor, Will Forte,
Yeah.
Luis
Mhm.
Guzman's in it. There's like a lot of awesome, and then of course there's so many cameos. Eric, he said that he did what, 10 voices for this movie?
Mhm.
10 voices. Think about his work. Like I see why he's really passionate about it. That's 10 different things, 10 different voices that he played, for nobody to see. So
Right. And,
unbelievable.
and he I mean, no disrespect to you. He really has my respect for speaking out to this, because it's like whenever I see him like
Man.
speaking out against this in the voices of Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, it's like this is a guy who's asking to be fired.
Yeah, like he even joked about it. But yeah, he really putting himself out there. But that should tell you,
Right.
I mean, you got a background actor who I've been fighting for this since it started, and then we have now not just people that are in the film, even I think Mark Hamill.
Yeah,
Even
Mark
said
Hamill.
this.
Well, Mark
Yep.
Hamill was kind of a victim of this. He was in Scoob Holiday Haunt.
Yep.
So it's like I'm sure he's looking at this going like, "Yep, I definitely relate to you on this one."
hmm
So
And then Patton Oswalt, just he made a joke about him
yeah,
recently. Yeah, so
yeah,
it's
that was yeah. You do have to wonder how many more people have to keep talking about this before someone says we have to release this. At this point, it's not even a money issue anymore.
right,
At
right.
this point, we just have to show that we are listening to the talent,
hmm
and we are saying we hear your concerns and we're going to address them. And the
Right.
funny thing is, they could still put it on streaming and write it off as a loss, as a write down at the very least, because
Yep.
it technically doesn't bring in money.
Yep. Yeah.
So I just don't think this was thought out very well. So
No.
Cal, just to let you know, thank you for being here for almost a decade. I keep saying I'm going to finish that PG-13 video, but I just have so many other things I want to do right now. But the funny thing is, maybe I should take a page out of my own book, because I actually did record the audio for that video, and maybe I should just finally put images to it and get it out there, keep it from being lost media. So that had nothing to do with what we were talking about.
What's going on?
right here. So yeah, there was a video I made, I guess 9 years ago, about the ratings, and I teased a sequel at the end and never actually released it. So here I am being naughty, but I can guarantee you I didn't get a tax write-down for doing that.
You're like, yeah, a little different situation.
That was a very different situation. So well, as we wrap this up, because I think we got through, were there any key points that I missed that you want to discuss?
No, I mean, just anybody watching, keep fighting for it if you really believe in it. Like seriously, don't slow down.
Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. This was the last thing I wanted to talk about, because people are asking, how can I help this movie get released? And there are a few things you can do. One of them, you can sign his petition. I don't think the petition personally does a lot of work, but if you really want to show Warner Brothers that you care about this, frankly, buy Looney Tunes DVDs and Blu-rays, and don't buy them secondhand. You buy them from Amazon or Walmart or something. You buy the cartoons to support the show. You buy a couple shares of Warner Brothers stock, they're like $8 a share right now, and you write to the studio on behalf, I am a shareholder, this is my number, and I have concerns about how you've handled this movie.
Yep.
Because as a shareholder, you put money towards this, and if enough of the shareholders come forward and say, hey, you know what, we're concerned about how this whole thing has been handled, that's something that David Zaslav can't ignore. He can't ignore rising Blu-ray sales or even digital sales if you want to buy them, although digital's not ownership. I have to point that out. And of course, probably the best thing you could do, and really this is really the best thing, and you folks can't drop the ball on this one. When the next Looney Tunes movie does come out, you have to go see it.
Right.
Because if that movie underperforms, seeing Coyote versus Acme goodbye forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, because after Looney Tunes Back in Action underperformed, they had like a dozen new Looney Tunes shorts that were made to piggyback off the success of that movie. It tanked, and guess what? We've never seen them.
Mm-hmm.
So if that next Looney Tunes movie does not do well, Coyote versus Acme it's going to get leaked. I know it will get leaked, but they will never release it at that point because you have voted with your wallet that you don't care about this.
Yeah.
So are there any other suggestions you could make for how?
And that is another thing. I for one am not telling people, because I'm seeing people say, I'm not watching another Warner Brothers movie. I'm not watching this. Forget them. And that, to me, this is my personal opinion, that kind of defeats the purpose of what I'm talking about is, the actors and all the people in those other movies that you're not going to see now because of this, they have nothing to do with this, like they have absolutely nothing to do with it. So it's not really about trying to get them, it's more about being focused on this project alone. That's my opinion though. And even with the petition, I know he's not looking at that petition. I know that, but
right.
It gets people talking. That's the whole point.
Yeah, it got people talking about it.
That's the whole point. It gets people talking.
Caught my attention. So, oh yeah, and also, folks, if you want to call, by the way, when you write letters and you call the studio, be nice.
Yes.
If you open by saying something to you for scrapping that movie, you're going to get hung up on, and your letter's going to get tossed in the trash.
Yeah. Yep.
Don't say fire David Zaslav. Yeah, he's a jerk, but they're not going to. It's like you're also asking him. He's the one who can release the movie. You're not going to get anywhere from insulting him. Right. Write the letters. Exactly. Be polite. Yep. It helps if you're a shareholder. And you know what? If there is one little bit of protest that I would encourage at the next shareholders meeting, because this stuff is public, stuff is very much public, find out where the shareholder meeting is being held, dress up as your favorite Looney Tune characters, and hold signs so that the shareholders and the executives can see it. Mm-hmm. And heck, call the news stations in advance and tell them that you're going to do it, and it'll hit the news. Like, I mean, as much as we like keeping the hashtag trending, and that is helpful, like, at the end of the day, that kind of falls into that Twitter is not real life scenario. But you show up at a shareholders meeting protesting and the news is there and you're dressed as Looney Tunes character. Oh, it's real now.
Yep.
It's real. And you're looking really foolish. Now, Calb said Apple offered to buy the film, but I didn't see Warner Brothers do anything with. Well, we know that there were a few studios that offered to buy the film, but Warner Brothers made like a very, very hard-lined offer, and there was no negotiation. And by the way, that is, as a shareholder, that does not suggest that this was done in good faith, and makes me concerned as a shareholder because it's like, wait, you mean we could have gotten more money for this in the tax write-off, and you didn't even try?
Right. Yeah.
Like, that. So this has been affecting everyone. So, but that's the whole gambit. And by the way, if there is anyone else who worked on this movie who wants to come on this podcast, I will interview you. We will talk about it. I don't mind doing this once a week for the next 6 months if I have to. You just happen to be the first who said yes, so you can welcome. But anyway, Stephen, thank you so much for coming on the show. Sorry again about your mom and son, but I definitely understand why this has become so personal for you. And keep up the good fight, man.
I appreciate it, and thank you for having me on. And I'm going to keep going. I'm not stopping.
Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. All right, so for everyone else, if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube or something with comments, we would like to hear your comments about this whole situation. So comment below. And if you are listening to this as an audio format thing and you like what you hear and you want to hear more, subscribe to the iCritic Live podcast on Spotify, Apple, Deezer, Google, whatever podcasting station of your choice. And as always, take care of yourself, and I'll see you at the movies.